In today's episode of AMA Podcast, myself and Milos, we had Ron Gordon on, just recently placed fourth in Detroit. Looks amazing. Incredible physique for such a tall bodybuilder. And we caught up with him, talked about his little history, what got him into bodybuilding, his progression, some of the injuries he's had, and what he's learned along the way. This is definitely a good podcast to kind of get to know the bodybuilder. I know a lot of us always just talk about what he's doing now, what's next, but this kind of dives deeper into some of his personality. So check it out. You guys won't regret it. Ron, what is going on? And listen, like I've talked to Milos about you a little bit, and obviously I saw your pictures to Detroit. I saw some pictures leading up to Detroit because we did a little prediction with Detroit with me, Antoine, and Morgan from Canada. And your pictures came up, and I was just like, "Whoa, who is this guy?" And then I wanted to know, obviously, more about you. And as I said to you before the podcast, like a lot of times we always talk about what's next, what are we doing now, but more so like your history, right? I see that
Yeah,
you won North Americans overall in 2018, and that was your pro card, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And then you competed a few years prior to that. But like, take us like back to like the beginning as of what got you into bodybuilding. Were you, did you love lifting, or was it one of those things where people are like, hey, man, you should compete?
Well, first of all, I just want to state that I was robbed in Detroit. It was the biggest robbery in bodybuilding history. I'm joking. I see your face, Milo.
I love
I
it.
was
I
robbed.
love it. Listen, I
I
love
was
that.
robbed so bad they didn't even give me second. No, my bodybuilding history. So
Ron, tell me this. I ask a lot of people on the podcast when they come on, like, obviously, as we progress and become better bodybuilders, sometimes our approach changes or we learn to train our body better. Now, if you're going to like look back at like from when you turned pro till now, have you fundamentally started to progress with different things, nutritional strategies in the off season that are different or training that are different than you normally would? Or is it one of those things that kind of
oh
like,
yeah,
I figured it out and then now I just got to stay with it? Like, where are you with that?
absolutely. So I feel like when you first turn pro, you attach yourself to all of these different templates that at some point belong to someone else. And you try to fit yourself into these templates because somebody said it worked and it might have worked for someone else, right? And after a while, you kind of like, okay, I need to deviate from that. And this applies to posing, this applies to nutrition and training. Um, I'll give you an example of like posing, right? So there are a lot of really good posing coaches, but I find like their default is to teach you how to pose the way that they pose. And then you come along and you're 6'1" with long arms, and those things don't work, you know. And you start thinking that it's you or your inability to execute, and it's really, that posing coach has to take a step back and really analyze what they're working with and have a different approach.
Let's analyze the biggest robbery as he started at Detroit. You started with the biggest robbery, right? Okay. How do you feel about your condition and presentation, size comparisons with the other guys? How did you see yourself?
Okay, so if I had to give out grades, and I'm only giving out grades in comparison to competition, not all time, right?
Yeah.
So I felt like my conditioning was tied probably with Sasan. I felt like he and I probably the most conditioned. I was probably a little bit more conditioned from the front, and he's probably a little bit more conditioned from the back. Um, William was right there, but I think William definitely had much more fullness and density than we did. Um, so I don't like the word flat too much, but I felt like I left a little bit on the table as far as being a little bit fuller, but I was pleased with that part. Um, as far as my posing, um, per the head judge, I lost a couple of points, I should say, on my back poses, mostly because of what he said was my head placement. Um, I guess I pushed my head forward on my rear lat spread, and that took away from it a little bit. Um, my side poses, I executed well. I lost my balance slightly, but I don't think anybody could tell. I really, really worked hard to keep my hamstring sweep. I had a tendency in the past to shorten it. You know, when you get in that position and you kind of you tweak it a little bit, any little contraction will have that hamstring lift up, and you lose that precious inch or two. So I really worked on just letting it lay and just putting everything on my support leg. So I think I did a good job there. My front lat spread, I actually think I did a better job last year. Now that I look at the pictures, I think this year I was more conditioned and my quads looked a lot better. But I felt like I was slightly more narrow in my execution. My chest was higher, but I lost width as I was put. You know what I mean? In that balance of lifting your chest and opening up, I got more chest out of it, but I should have. It would have been better for me to have a little bit more width. To be honest with you. Um, my front double was, I think, was pretty good considering I'm still trying to manage the peak disparity
Yeah.
from the recent tear. So I realized with that one, if I lift my good arm, because the peak isn't as good on my good arm, if I lift it to match it slightly, it looks pretty uniform. So I think I did a good job there. Let me see. My most muscular, I would say, is probably my weakest pose. You know, I have a real difficulty trying to figure out what to do with these long arms in that pose. So I usually just crab and just rely on my conditioning. And I think my ab and thigh was a lot better than last year. I didn't really do anything different this year, maybe just some dietary changes, but my waist actually got smaller.
First, to appreciate the shape. This is for me bodybuilding, most beautiful shape. This is like I don't care who you are. If you see that physique, I mean, uh, you can't stop it, right? Uh, Like
That's
this
ridiculous.
is as good as it gets as far as X frame, B taper, peaking biceps, hanging triceps, full chest, full shoulders, right? Legs, okay, could be bigger, because yeah, you have 6'1", 6'2", whatever you say, right? Separation, shape, everything is there. But you see, when you do move, it's going to be right now, you're going to relax them for a second. And judge is going to look at you being relaxed. Like you see? So uh, I know it's hard, but if you have them popped like this constantly, mind you, just need to do this from the front poses, because then when you turn to the side, you can relax it. From the back is a different story. Which I realized I was watching, analyzing your contest, and I commentated yesterday with both old school podcast and then with Jay Cutler. And the Jay Cutler, we had a really one by I mean, uh, uh, four guys comparison and then analyzing one by one. Uh, so I'm gonna sound again as I'm criticizing you, but I'm gonna say the exact same thing. Back in the 90s, I did my videos and presentations, and then later I come home and I look at the video and I want to pull my hair out because there was like 15 moments that I uh, lost my ass, that I dropped my shoulders, that I didn't pop my quads, right? And I knew like I had absolutely no reason to do that, but it was like, it's part of the moment. You just don't think, and then you do that naturally. What happens?
So your critique of yourself is fix the posing and come in a tad bit fuller. Is that correct?
As far as what I can do, like without going into an off season, as far as like off
Yeah.
season improvements, I want to
Yeah.
build my lats. But if I had to do another show like this weekend, yeah, it would be like, okay, improve the posing and come in fuller. Yeah.
I like you got the hamstring drop going there though.
Yeah, I really worked on that. It took me a little while to figure out my cues.
Yeah, it's hard to keep your glute flexed and relax your hamstring.
Beautiful shape, beautiful structure, great condition, right? But it was still what was missing that little bit pop and the fullness. If you are exploding full, like condition is good, right?
Yeah.
And this comes from a guy I was considered a smaller guy, right? You have to see how much can I push and get away with it, because you have a type of physique that if chest are exploding full and shoulders are exploding full, right? It creates instant illusion of extra 10 pounds, and I
Yeah.
promise you that.
No.